everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the BFI Future Film Festival 2023. I'm Charlotte, I'm digital producer for the festival, and I'm here to introduce this afternoon session, How to Establish Your Personal Brand for a Successful Screen Career. A big hello, welcome to all of you watching, wherever you're tuning in from. Before we start, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how our event will be structured this afternoon. We have the events festival team working behind the scenes. My colleague Shibi is running the Q&A box and Elle is running the chat box. If you decide to use the chat box, we ask you to please be respectful of our guests today and to each other. Please don't use offensive language or share any personal information. Our code of conduct can be found in the ticketing email you received via Eventbrite. Elle is going to share a link to our Facebook networking group in a second. If you'd like to network with each other after the event, please do feel free to join the group and collaborate there. So on to the event today. We are delighted to be joined by Marielle Legair. She's a personal branding expert, LinkedIn Top Voice 2023 and LinkedIn Learning Instructor. She works with global brands including BP, Microsoft, Red Bull and Yale University to deliver her talks and training workshops to help individuals achieve personal and professional success. If you have a question for Marielle, please use the Q&A box to submit these. We have 10 minutes at the end dedicated to questions, so we'll get through as many as we can. So without further ado, I'd like to please welcome Marielle to the chat.
Hello, Charlotte. Thank you for the welcome. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Marielle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk with you all.
Great. I just want to start off, Marielle, can you just tell us a little bit about you? I gave a little overview in my introduction, but tell us a little bit about you first of all.
Yeah, so essentially the work I do is about helping professionals become better known for their work. I often say that the best known wins, because in my career I found it's about just being visible and making sure that the right people know about you so that you could create amazing opportunities for yourself, whatever that may be. So that's what I do.
And then tell us, what obstacles and challenges did you face in your career?
Yeah, I would definitely say a big challenge that I faced is that I'm generally quite introverted, and I often found myself working in very noisy, extroverted industries that were quite loud. And I really struggled early on in my career to have my voice heard. I don't know if any of those of you watching can relate to this, but I'm definitely more introverted by nature. So it's taken me a lot of time to feel comfortable in my own skin in terms of promoting myself and speaking up and things like that. So that's definitely been a challenge that I've had to overcome.
Yeah, and obviously so the list of companies you work with, we said in the introduction, I mean, you speak to a lot of big corporate companies speaking online. And how has your relationship with public speaking changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I used to dread. I used to dread public speaking. And again, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but public speaking is not something that came naturally to me. So I had to work on it because I recognized that we all need to be great speakers, right? Because we're always selling our ideas, whether it's through the films that you guys are creating, whether it's you promoting your work online, even in university, doing team projects and having to get up in front of the class and share what you were doing. Those things filled me with dread. So I used to avoid them. So I recognized that that was holding me back. So I signed up to Toastmasters, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Charlotte, but it's essentially like a global public speaking training company. They're all over the world, all over London, in fact. And I signed up to Toastmasters as a way to really practice feeling more comfortable speaking to large rooms, small rooms. So it's definitely something that I would recommend for anyone watching that feels nervous about speaking, is just to practice, because the more you practice, the stronger and more confident you come. It's like any muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. So that's definitely something I'd recommend.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that, and I think I just spotted Elle's just put a link into our chat to Toastmasters, so thank you. Yeah. So we're at Future Film Festival. We are primarily, our target audience is primarily 16 to 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self, if you could now?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I would definitely say is just to feel the fear and do it anyway. You know, I think I stayed very safely in my comfort zone to begin with. I didn't network. Like I said, I avoided doing any sort of public speaking, but those are the things that are going to make you grow. So think of just one thing. What is one thing that you are putting off or that feels fearful to you? Maybe it's approaching that person online or talking to that stranger at that networking event. Whatever it is, do something that's going to challenge you and put yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's the only way that you're going to grow. So that's something that I wish I had done more frequently early on in my career, for sure.
And interesting, what age, so obviously that's 18, like what age did you start to kind of develop those kind of skills?
Yeah, I'll probably say just recently.
Really?
I'm 40 now, so just
progress.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did things like moved away from home. So I went to university, left home when I was 18 to go to university. Later on, I moved to New York. I spent a lot of time in New York. I moved there when I was 30. I didn't know anyone when I moved to New York, but I just fell in love with the pace and the culture of New York City. So I've always done things now that are going to challenge me and stretch me. So whatever that may be for you, I would recommend that you think of something and you know, just challenge yourself.
Yeah. Now you described how obviously you work with you work with people to help their personal brand.
Yeah.
Can you just explain a little bit about what personal branding is to our
Yes. Yeah, and it's adopted somewhat of a buzzword. It's become something of a buzzword in this climate. But for me, personal branding is really just about becoming known for something, establishing your reputation. And like I said at the start, you know, the best known wins the best opportunities. You could be amazing at what you do, but if nobody knows that you exist, if you're there just working in your bedroom and not going out, not having conversations with people, it's going to be very hard for you to establish your film career, right? So it's about becoming known for your work. And essentially, I help people do that through telling their story, establishing their reputation online, through having conversations to build relationships. It's a real step-by-step process that I teach to help people establish their brand.
And then, so you touched it just then, but you know, to our audience here who are filmmakers and you know and coming up in the industry, why is having a personal brand important, and why would it be important for them?
Yeah, it's primarily because it's the only way that you're going to become known. It's the only way that people are going to know about your work, right? So imagine you've got somebody out there who is visible, they're telling their story, they're promoting their work, and you've got another person who essentially just puts their head down, just does the work, but they don't promote it, right? Nobody knows about them. Who are you going to want to work with? Who are you going to build trust with? Because essentially that's what personal branding is about. It's about establishing know, like, and trust. Trust is really important in any industry, right? Because if people don't trust you, it's going to be very hard for you to cultivate those relationships that are so important to move your career forward. So personal branding will help you establish trust. So that's what it's all about.
Okay. And then how would you get started with building a personal brand? Where would you start?
Yeah, so the first thing, and it may seem a little counterintuitive, but the first thing I would say is to start with the end in mind. So almost think about, what do I want to be known for? Like, this is such an important question that you all reflect on as you begin your careers, is to think about, what do I want to do? Maybe you think about, what sort of genre of films do you want to be creating? What is just one thing that you want people to think about when they think of you? When your name's mentioned in certain rooms, what do you want them to be saying? Do you want to be seen as creative, innovative, confident? What is that one thing? And then once you're clear on that, just that one thing, start to think about, how can you build that thing up? So how can you begin to demonstrate that you are creative, that you are innovative? What can you do to display that? Does that make sense, in terms of just starting really small and then just building from there once you're clear on what it is that you want to be known for. And I would also say, if you're not clear on what you want to be known for, that's okay too. Obviously, you guys are just very early in your career. You know, I wasn't clear when I was 16, 18, or even 30. You know, I'm 40 now, but it's taken me a long time to establish and get clear on who I am and what I want to be known for. So it definitely is a journey. And I think the more that you can experiment, the more that you could try things out, the more that you could speak to people who are in different industries and who are doing things that seem remotely interesting to you, the more richer your experience is going to become.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've heard this terminology relating to personal branding. What is an elevator pitch?
Yes, an elevator pitch is simply a short statement that outlines the problem that you solve in your work. That's it. It's essentially, imagine literally visualize that you are in an elevator with somebody. You don't know who this person is, but you've literally got 30 seconds to get their attention. You could do one of two things, right? You could put your head down and you could pretend that you've just not seen them. You can pretend that you don't even, you know, you don't want to talk to them. I wouldn't really recommend that, because you never know who they could be. They could have your next career opportunity. So I invite you all to think about, how can you introduce yourself to this person in a way that's going to entice them to want to find out more about you. That's what your elevator pitch is, simply a little strap line that outlines who you are and what you do. That's it. And your goal with your elevator pitch is to entice people to want to find out more about you.
Okay.
That's it.
Which actually brings me on to my next question. So why do you think storytelling is such an important part of personal branding?
Yeah, we have to remember that people are emotional beings, right? We remember emotions. Like, that's how we connect with people. That's how you build a rapport with people. You probably heard the saying that facts tell, stories sell. So, you know, I could be sat here right now spouting a load of facts to you, but you probably won't remember them. But if I tell you that I was crying on the floor in my bedroom because I was so nervous about delivering a presentation the following day, you'll probably remember that more, right? Because you feel something. And that's what storytelling is all about, right? It's helping you to feel something. And that's really what we all have to become good at, is telling stories, because I think it was Steve Jobs who says, the world belongs to the storyteller. And I really do believe that, especially in this climate. If you look at social media, it's all about stories. You know, it's people sharing content, their behind the scenes, a day in the life, their keynote speech, or whatever it is to take you on a journey so that you feel something and connect with them on a deeper level.
And how can young screen creatives, obviously we're talking about kind of promoting ourselves, how can we distinguish self-promotion versus promotion of their projects?
Yeah, now this is such a great question, and it's something that comes up a lot. I actually believe that the two are merging more and more, right? Because your personal brand, which is, you know, you self-promoting, is primarily you promoting your work. So I feel like the lines have become so blurry now. So I think it's harder now to have a clear distinction, because the work that you create is going to be your unique footprint, right? It's going to be your perspective, your take on things, your interpretation. So it becomes very hard to separate the two. So I encourage you all to see yourself as a brand, and to see yourself as somebody who needs to promote your work, but you also need to be promoting yourself, because people are going to connect with you first before they connect with your work. So it's about making sure that you are putting your best foot forward, and that you are helping people to find you and form a connection with you first and foremost, because that most likely is what they're going to be interested in addition to your work.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of connecting with people, obviously, you know, you can do that in person at networking events. I mean, we've got a lot of networking events happening across the festival this week. But what social platforms do you think young creatives should consider when promoting their work?
Yeah, I feel like there's so many social platforms out there. I would say to just pick one to begin with. And when you're thinking about where you want to be, think about it from a strategic perspective. So who is it that you're wanting to engage with? Where are your audience? And try to double down on that particular social media platform. And then once you master that, then think about spreading yourself more broadly, because I feel it's so easy to feel overwhelmed in this climate because there's so much that we could be doing. I like to say, simplify to multiply, right? So keep it really simple in terms of where you're going to focus. If it is TikTok, for instance, you could focus there, but then you could repurpose content for, say, Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter. Don't feel like you have to be everywhere, spreading yourself too thin, because that's the fastest way to burn out. So I would say be strategic, think about where is your audience and where do you want to focus first. Maybe also think about where you enjoy. If you're somebody that really enjoys TikTok, then obviously that may make more sense than, focusing immediately on another platform that may take you a little more time to get up to speed. But I definitely would also say, I feel like in this climate, we do need to be on social media. I don't think we can afford to just not be on social. So I would say just pick one, go deep with that, and then start to explore other platforms after you've at least mastered one.
Yeah, and on that, obviously, you do a lot of work with LinkedIn. Why do you suggest LinkedIn for someone in the creative industry?
Yeah,
might not be, might not have LinkedIn pages. They might not have thought of that at this stage. Yeah.
The thing I love about LinkedIn is that it's the only platform that I know where you could get career opportunities, brand deals, you could get publicity, you could showcase your work on there as well, like your videos. It's kind of like an all-in-one, if you like. When I wanted to move to New York, for instance, it was LinkedIn that I used to reach out to people on LinkedIn. In terms of searchability as well, I love the fact that you could plug in different cities all over the world and just find people who are doing certain jobs, and it's just really user friendly. And I would highly recommend, if anybody is wanting to connect with decision makers, for instance, and start to build their network, it's never too early to start. Consider using LinkedIn, because it's the number one professional social networking platform in the world, right? Like it's a main dominant B2B social media platform. So it does make sense, whatever it is that you're doing. And I think especially for creatives as well, we're seeing so many more creatives start to come onto LinkedIn who historically thought that it was just like a boring platform. But now I'm seeing so many photographers, videographers, filmmakers that are starting to really promote their work on there. So for you guys that aren't yet on LinkedIn, get started, because you always want to start before you feel ready. You never want to leave things until it's really saturated, because then it's going to be harder for you to find your voice on there. So even just after this session, if you feel free to connect with me as well, but you could start by just filling out your profile. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it's definitely a good way to start showcasing your work and start building relationships, for sure.
And as our audience is a lot going to be, young visual storytellers, how would you advise using Instagram and TikTok for self-promotion?
Yeah, well, like you said, it's visual, right? So I would definitely make sure that you've got good images, good light. I mean, you guys know all this already, but good lighting, really, and not feeling like it has to be perfect either. I think progress is always what we're aiming for. Progress, not perfection, right? So how do you make progress? You make progress just by starting. So start to share your story. You could even just do a short intro reel on Instagram, whereby you're 30 seconds, right? Sharing who you are, what you do, who you're looking to connect with on Instagram. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there as well, because like I said earlier, people need to see you. They need to feel like they connect with you. And this is how you're going to build know, like, and trust to further your career along. I think it's so easy sometimes to want to stay behind the scenes. And I get it. As somebody who's introverted, I often would just want to be behind the scenes, but we need to know who you are. So don't be afraid to be visible. And I think especially with Instagram and TikTok, it is about people forming a connection with you, and they can't do that if you're hiding. So, you know, like I said, start with an intro post. You could share behind the scenes of your work, a day in the life. You could get so creative with what you're doing. So just start, I would say.
Yeah, and actually, with the social platforms and being as accessible as they are, and so visual, in terms of people's websites, what would your advice be for filmmakers considering building personal websites to promote their work?
Yeah, I would say with websites, I feel like they do still have their place. I wouldn't necessarily say that you need anything too fancy, especially when you're just starting out, and especially if you don't have a big budget. You ultimately want to be where the eyes are, right? And the eyes are on social media. They're on TikTok, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Instagram. So I think I would actually prioritize social media, but I would say if you can, just create a very simple one-page website where it's just your name, maybe your show reel, your biography, and your contact details. I feel like that would be sufficient, you know, as long as you've got some presence there. But I would always recommend just being where the eyes are. And I feel like the eyes right now are on all the social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned show reel there, and we discussed this a lot yesterday at the festival as well, and the importance of a show reel. What, in your opinion, would you say makes for a good show reel?
Yeah, I would say with show reels, to me, I think it's about a good story, right? People, as we know, connect with stories. So I would think about, what do you want people to feel? You know, in the work that I do as a keynote speaker, it's not about me. I always think about the audience. Who am I trying to connect with? And how do I want them to feel after experiencing my keynote, after sitting watching my keynote? So for you guys, with your show reel, think about, who do I want to connect with, and how do I want them to feel? Do I want them to feel happy? Do I want them to feel sad? Do I want them to feel inspired? What is it? What's the emotion that you want them to feel? And think about how you can infuse that in the work that you're doing. And obviously as well, you need to be showcasing your expertise. But I think the emotions are what I would look for in a show reel.
Mm-hmm. And so going on to my next section here on networking, we referenced before in how important networking is to building your social brand, and opportunities both online and in person at the festival to do that. Can you just touch again on why networking is so important?
Yeah, if you think about it, every opportunity that you want is going to come from another person, right? If you want a new job, if you want a new, whatever it is, it's going to come from another person. That's it in a very simple level. So networking is really about connecting. It's about connections. It's about building a rapport with people in exchange for some kind of value, right? So everything is about networking. Everything that you want is going to come from networking. So this is why it's important. I think as well, for somebody who is introverted and didn't always love networking, I really had to work on this, and I had to work on the story that I was telling myself about why I didn't want to network. And once I got over that block, I found that I was able to create so many exciting opportunities just by building a network of contacts. And I would also say with networking as well, I think it's important to that rapport building piece is really important. We don't want to see networking as being just purely transactional, right? We need to focus on actually just being human, you know, building that rapport, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, and kind of nurturing that, you know, those contacts as well, you know, keeping regular contact. Absolutely. And then where would you get started with networking?
Where would I get started? So I would say set yourself a goal, you know, especially if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy networking, just start small. So you could set a goal of just going to one networking event per week, for instance, and talking to just one new person, you know, see it, almost gamify it, see it as like a fun game to get yourself out the house, you know. And I'm curious in the chat, do people enjoy networking here? I would love to know, because if you don't, like I said, set yourself a goal just to get that momentum going. You could use Eventbrite as well. I used to use Eventbrite all the time, because there's so many events on there. So many of them are free as well, and just attend them. Go to an event. You could go with a friend, or it's even better if you go alone, but I think that may be a bit of a stretch for some people. So go with a friend and just set yourself a simple goal of just talking to one person, and building from there. Again, you'll build that confidence muscle the more that you do these things that are going to push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and you just touched on here, obviously, being an introvert yourself. I mean, what if you don't enjoy networking? Have you got any tips on or advice on how they best do it?
Yeah, I mean, in this climate as well, you don't even need to leave your house, right? Like, think about it like this, like, how many people can I see on this? There's 56 people on here. Have you all connected with each other, for instance? How are you making sure that you're getting the most out of being here right now? You're listening to me, but are you also connecting with your peers? Don't miss the opportunity to leverage online connecting as well. I use LinkedIn a lot to build my network, but also Instagram, TikTok. There's nothing stopping you from just reaching out in the DMs with people and having conversations that way, especially if you see that you could potentially support each other in some way. That's a great way for introverts, because it doesn't require you to leave the house. You could tap in and out whenever you feel, and it's just a great way to protect your energy and just make sure that you're not burning yourself out, which is common for introverts to do, especially if you're doing something that requires much more social interaction than you're used to.
Yeah, totally. And then also, you mentioned digital networking as well, and the opportunities seem to be increasing. Those opportunities. I mean, how would you approach digital networking? Do you approach it in the same way as face to face, or slightly differently?
Yeah, I think in some ways it is the same as face to face, but obviously you don't have the same verbal cues. Obviously you and I are sat together. I could see right into your eyes. You could see into mine. You're able to gauge a lot more than if it is online, right? So I would say always be polite. Always make it more about the person that you're connecting with rather than yourself. And I think that is such a big thing when you're connecting with strangers online. You don't want it to be about me, right? You always want to lead with value. You always want to focus on them. People like to have their ego stroked as well. So you could comment and say something like, hey, I read your recent post about this. I really enjoyed it. I'm interested in this too. And maybe we could collaborate, or, really make it clear that you've done your research, so that it's clear that you're not just, doing a scattergun approach of everybody. You've taken the time to research who this person is. You've read some of their recent content, and this is why you want to connect with them. Do you see the difference? Because you're really showing that you've taken the time to understand them a little bit more. And I think those sort of things make all the difference when you're connecting with people online, because they're not able to gauge your facial expressions or anything like that. So if you could actually show that you've taken the time to research, I think that always works pretty well when connecting online.
Yeah, it's really good advice. And how often should we network? How often should we be getting ourselves out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on your goals and what you're doing. In the work that I do, I'm pretty active online, just because I recognize I'm seen as a thought leader in my space. I need to have a digital presence. But if you're just starting out, I would say, if it's an in-person event, try to go to at least one. You could try once a week if you've got the time and the capacity, but at least once a month, I would say. And if it's online, then again, try at least to have a few conversations each week, because the more conversations that you have, the more opportunities you're going to create for yourself. So see it that way.
Yeah,
see it like that.
And access to these events. You mentioned Eventbrite. Are there any other platforms you could recommend to our audience?
Yeah, Twitter's quite good as well. I'm trying to think in terms of the film industry. I'm not too familiar. I think Eventbrite is the main one that I've always used for a far range of different events and different industries. Yeah, and even just Google. Google's a great resource as well.
Yeah. And You touched on this before as well. What advice would you give about DMing people on socials, or cold calling, or cold emailing? How does that kind of direct communication? What's your experience of that, and what would your advice be?
Yeah. Now, I would say cold calling and cold emailing often gets a bad rap because people see it as like, you know, a sleazy salesman type vibe. But I actually think it's very, very, very valuable, especially if you're just starting your career, because you need to be having as many conversations as you possibly can. And the reality is, most of us, I know for me, I didn't know anybody who was in my industry. I'm the first one in my family to work in PR, to do what I do. So I've really had to prioritize networking, and that's required me to get comfortable being uncomfortable, having conversations with total strangers, right? So you have to really think about what your end goal is, and cold calling and cold emailing is really just a channel to get to your end goal. But there's etiquette, there's kind of do's and don'ts. So I would say, again, do your research, right? Everybody that you cold call, make sure that you personalize your message. So make sure that you've taken the time to research who they are and what they do, right? So you want to keep your message really short and succinct, but you want to make it clear that you've done your research. So, hi, Jane, I've read your recent post about XYZ. I'm wanting to start a career in the film industry, and I would really welcome any advice that you could give. And you could also, don't forget that you have knowledge as well. Even though you're starting out in your industry, you have so much knowledge that the older generation don't have. So it could be an exchange. You could say, you know, I would love to, and if it's of interest to you, I'll be happy to share some tips around whatever your expertise is. You know, maybe you're good with TikTok, maybe you're good with video editing, whatever it is. You could say, you know, I'll be happy to share some tips with you if that's helpful as well. Are you free to talk for 10 minutes? ? You know, you always want to leave them with a question at the end as well. So just so that they've got something to respond to. Are you free to talk next Wednesday? You know, so that they could, it's very hard to ignore a message that is well-researched, personalized, and has a call to action at the end. So I hope that's helpful, but I would just say, again, keep it simple. Do your research and make sure that you have a clear call to action at the end. And if you feel sleazy doing it, that's okay, but just start. And the more that you do it, the more confident that you become. And to be honest, that's how I got to New York. I was cold calling on LinkedIn to recruiters saying, hey, I want to move to New York. I'm looking for these types of jobs. Do you have anything at your company? It's how I've often got a lot of my clients as well. A lot of the big brands that I work with as well. A lot of them have approached me, but I've often had my team go out and, start to have conversations with people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn. So don't dismiss being proactive, because it's actually a good thing that you're taking the initiative to start to have conversations and with companies that you desire working with. So don't dismiss it, because I know a lot of people do, but I actually think done correctly, I think cold emailing could work really well for you.
Yeah, and also I guess the success rate of it as well, and kind of the fear of not being replied to, and
Yes.
maybe that kind of feeling, you know, quite personal. Actually, people don't reply to your crafted email. I guess it's also kind of understanding that, you know, it might not necessarily be personal, it might just be the wrong time for them, and just to keep going with it.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important point. And I think that the ability to develop that thick skin is so, so important, because nothing is ever really personal. Often, like you said, you know, often it's a timing thing. People just may not have the bandwidth, but I think it's also a numbers game, right? Like the more conversations that you can have in whichever capacity, it could be a DM, it could be a cold email, it's going to add up, and it's going to begin to pay off. And I would also say, when you're cold emailing, people will look at your socials, right? They will think, oh, I've received an email from Charlotte. Who is Charlotte? Let me look at her Instagram, let me look at her LinkedIn profile. People will look at who this is, connecting with them. So this is why it's important that you do have your social media content is up to date, and that you've got a really clear description of who you are online, because people will Google you, especially if you're doing things like cold outreach or DMing. They will be curious and think, oh, who is this person? Let me make sure that it's not spam, right? So you need to make sure that when people do Google you, as they will, that what you want to come up is coming up. So I think that's an action for everyone watching this, is just to make sure that you do have that your Instagram bio is up to date, that your LinkedIn profile, even if you're not on there actively, just start by making sure that you've at least got some semblance of a presence on these platforms, because people will be looking for you when you begin to do outreach.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot more people having, maybe their personal Instagram accounts are private, and maybe their professional is the public facing one, just to kind of split the two.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then how would we nurture all the contacts that we make? Because obviously we're talking about meeting people and networking and getting our brand out there, but how do you personally nurture your network of
network? Yeah, that's a great question. And I think this is so important, right? You can make all the connections in the world, but if you don't do that follow-up step of following up, connecting with them, having those continued conversations, then those warm contacts are quickly going to become cold, right? So we have to be intentional. For me, that looks like blocking out time on my calendar at least once a week to connect with my audience, to reply to comments on my content. I get quite a lot of engagement on my content. I make sure that I respond to everybody who takes the time out to reply to me. After this event, for all of you watching right now, make sure that you connect with people, send them a thank you, nice meeting you. What's the next step? Can we maybe have a coffee? Be really intentional with this. You never want to go to such a valuable event like this and then just go home and do nothing because it's a missed opportunity for you. So after every single event, I make sure that I always follow up, and I always try to think about what the next step is. Do I want to have a phone conversation with this person? Do I want to meet with them? Whatever it is, I try to make sure that I keep that momentum going.
Mm-hmm. And when you are networking, what information are you sharing with people? Have you got business cards? Have you got how do you get your info out there?
Yeah, I've not used business cards in a long time. I probably need to get better, especially as now we're doing much more in person. I typically just would share my website, or I would share my LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. And when I am meeting people, so for instance, I've just come back from a work and holiday to the Cayman Islands. While I was there, I met probably about 7 new business contacts, and I've made sure that I followed up with them all. And when I met with them, I didn't really talk about me to begin with. I made sure that I was interested in them. I took time to find out about them. I researched who they were and what they were doing online before meeting them, so that when I did meet them in person, I was able to come prepared, and I was able to feel confident in the questions I was asking them about them and their life, even before I started talking about business. And I think that rapport building is really important when you're networking.
And just on networks, how would you approach a potential mentor for your career?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I feel like we all need mentors. We all need mentors and sponsors, right? People who are going to be advocating for us and supporting us on our journey. The thing with finding a mentor is actually takes work, right? It takes work, and it's important that you have established your personal brand before trying to get a mentor. Why, you may be wondering, is once you've established your brand, once you're visible, once people have a decent understanding of who you are and what you do, you've built that know, like, and trust. Guess what? Everything becomes so much easier, because people are going to be naturally attracted to you. And that's going to be much easier than you going out to total strangers and saying, hey, can you be my mentor? Right. And this is why being seen and being visible and establishing yourself as an expert in the field that you're in is really going to pay off long term, because people are going to be naturally drawn to you. And if you're not there yet, I would say you could even just create a list of maybe 5 people who you eventually want to be your mentor. But I would never go in and say to somebody, hey, can you mentor me? What I would do is make a list of just 5 people or 3 or however many you want, keep it small and manageable, and start to have conversations with them, start to build rapport, see what value you can add to them, you know, identify things where you can help them build that relationship, and then gradually over time ask them if they wouldn't mind maybe taking some time out each month to guide you, to mentor you. Keep it really informal, but I think the more valuable that you can be and that you can position yourself to be in your industry, the easier it's going to be for you to attract what it is that you want in terms of the support and mentorship that you desire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, you know, it could feel quite daunting, you know, going out and trying to make connections with, you know, established, experienced people in the industry. But
Yeah.
Is it just as important to make connections with other young screen creators as well, like, you know, their peers?
Oh, absolutely. Because I imagine it could feel quite lonely and quite daunting. You know, it's a big established industry and you're wanting to break into it, right? There's always power in numbers. You know, I would actually suggest even you could create even like a small mastermind group where some of you get together like once a month to share ideas, share resources, to brainstorm, support each other. That is invaluable. I've got friends like that where we get together like once a month and just share ideas. And it is so something that I really look forward to, because it can feel really daunting when you're trying to do something just purely by yourself and you don't know anybody, you don't have the relationships. But if you could club together, even just a group of friends, whereby you get together and share your challenges, share your ideas, support each other, it's almost like an accountability group to ensure that you're moving forward. That's going to be so powerful for you. So I highly recommend that you all do this if you've not already done so.
Yes, and for those here in this event, I think we've linked to it before in the chat, but we've got our Facebook networking group, so do feel free to join that after this event and have your chats in that group. It's very active, and there's lots of people on there doing interesting things.
Oh, good.
I'm just going to move on now. We've had loads of questions through from our audience. I'm just going to move across now to some of those, if that's okay.
Sure.
We've had just on the topic of mentors. We have a question which is, do you have a mentor or mentors?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I do actually. I've got several. And they're all in very different industries. Some are here in the UK, some are in the US. But yeah, I have very loose mentors who have really just taken me under their wing to guide me in my career. So really invaluable, and I'm so grateful for them as well.
If you are changing careers, that's another question from the audience, how would you advise going about posting that on social media, especially LinkedIn? I think that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Like what the optics of that is.
Yeah. So if you're changing careers, I think really just, again, thinking about what do you want to be known for in this new field of work, and really positioning yourself for the job that you desire. And then that's not really enough. I would say that's the starting point, you know, update your LinkedIn profile, but it's really going to be about the conversations that you have. So get intentional about the conversations and the networking that you're having, because as I said at the start, you know, any opportunity that you desire is going to come from somebody else. So the more conversations that you can have with the people who are in the industry that you want to get into, the more likely you will find a job or opportunity that you desire, the quicker you will find it. So yeah, just be intentional about the conversations that you're having as you change your careers.
I got a really great question here from Erica. They're referencing being at networking events in person. How do you start chatting to somebody that's already talking to somebody? For them, it always feels like everyone is already talking to everybody else and want to butt in.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Who is it, Erica?
Erica, yes.
This is such a great question. And I was given this advice probably 20 years ago, and it stuck with me. When you're at a networking event, always approach odd numbers, right? So if you see 3 people talking together, approach the person that isn't in the conversation as much, because that means that that's essentially somebody that you could partner with. If you approach an even number, say you approach 2 people, that's awkward, right? Because they're already in an in-depth conversation together. You're third wheeling, right? Where are you going to get in there, right? So always approach odd numbers if you can. If you can't, and you know, there's no other option, but you have to approach 2 people, I would say just pause. I would say just listen to begin with, and they'll pick up on your verbal cue that you're wanting to be part of the conversation. And if they're nice people, they will include you in that conversation. But if you can, always approach an odd number, because it's going to be so much easier for you to get into dialogue.
That's so interesting. Yeah, no one wants to be the third wheel.
No.
Another great question, Sachi, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Some great questions from you. Can you see any ways to maximize one's personal brand if one's target audience is high net worth individuals?
Wow, that's a very great question. LinkedIn. LinkedIn, because you've got to think about the demographic, right? I mean, you could say the work that I do is focused on high net worth individuals because the companies that I work with are huge global brands, right, who have big budgets. So I focus on LinkedIn for that reason, because I know that the decision makers that I want to engage with are on LinkedIn. How do I connect with them? I share valuable content. I talk about their pain points, their challenges, but I also get into conversations with them as well. So it's like a 2-pronged approach. Imagine trying to do that on TikTok, for instance. It will be very difficult to know, can they even see you? You know, it's very difficult to know who is on TikTok and who the audience is. So if you're somebody that wants to approach high net worth individuals or people with big budgets, I would highly recommend LinkedIn, because it's very easy to identify who works where, for instance.
Yeah, it's a great leveler, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And another one, if you were to, have you got any books that you might recommend about personal brand development? What would they be?
Yeah, I actually wrote a book. I wrote a book called The Personal Brand Bible for Ambitious Women. It's available on Amazon. I mean, anyone could read it, to be honest. It's just, the reason I called it Ambitious Women is because I've interviewed 5 really successful women about how they've established their personal brand. That is available on Amazon. I've also got a LinkedIn learning course, which I could give you all free access to. It's a very short course, 30 minutes long, but it's really going to help you apply a lot of what I've talked about so that you could come away with a stronger sense of your brand after doing the course.
Great. I think we're going to link. I think we're going to link to that in the chat. Actually, if we haven't already, we'll link to that later, so you can access Marielle's course.
Yeah.
Another question on socials. Are there any celebrities or business people that you would recommend people following, just to learn a little bit more about self-brand development, obviously other than yourself?
Yeah. Business people, this is a great question. So in terms of business people, I really love Sarah Blakely. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she essentially created Spanx, which is they're kind of like tights that you would wear, you know, to just suck yourself in all the right places. She created this, it's now $1 billion company. But her story is really interesting because she was actually selling fax machines when she developed this idea to create the Spanx brand. She was selling fax machines door to door. So you could imagine she had a lot of doors slammed in her face, but she often talks about being so grateful to have started out selling fax machines because it developed her confidence, it developed her resilience muscle, and she just was so determined to make her business a success because she faced so much rejection while selling fax machines. And she was able to start that business with just $5,000 of her own personal savings, and now it's like $1 billion brand, and she sell these Spanx sell all over the world, right? So there's people like that I'm always really interested in, people that literally come from nothing, have no experience in what they're doing, but it's just their sheer determination to succeed that gets them where they are. I love stories like that, so I would definitely say she's one of them that I look up to.
Great. Another one here. Hang on, let's have a quick look here. Sorry. Yeah. Obviously, you invest so much time in and energy into kind of putting into your brand. Do you ever burn out? Do you have to invest time in taking a break and a bit of wellness?
Oh yes. Yeah. It's so important. And to be honest with you, I've only really learned recently about the importance of boundaries and the importance of protecting my energy. And I used to get so burnt out before I knew how to do this. So I never had boundaries. I was always on, I was always online, I was always talking to people, and I didn't realize that I was burning myself out. So now I am so much more guarded about protecting my time and my energy, and even just doing things like batching my social media content helped me massively, because as an introvert, doing the work that I do is very extroverted work that I'm doing. I'm expected to hold space and uplift a lot of people. So I need to make sure that I'm able to do that. So I really have to manage my time more effectively. And yeah, that's something that I'm still learning, but I'm doing a lot better.
Another question as well. Are there any, we talked a little about the positive, about what people should be doing. Are there any bad examples of online influences that you've seen that you sort of advise people away from?
Yeah, bad examples. So that's a really great question. I would say not taking the time to build your community, right? Like sharing your story, helping people know who you are. This is really, really crucial. Oftentimes I get people not doing that and just trying to sell me things immediately. And I'm like, but who are you? You've not introduced yourself. You've not shown that you understand who I am. You've not taken the time to research who I am. So those things I would recommend not doing. And this is why if you do need to reach out to people that you don't necessarily know, at least take the time to research who they are and what they do, and show that you've tailored your message, because no one likes to be sold to, not in a really spammy way that feels like they're just kind of sending the same generic message to everybody. That's what I would say to avoid at all costs, because you're just going to damage your reputation.
And then talking about planning the future, we've had another question. Did you make any 2, 5 or 10-year plans? That's often quite a common question that interviewers ask.
Yeah.
What your 10-year, 5-year plan is. Did you make one?
Yeah.
Did you strategize your future like that?
Yeah, I think I'm generally quite a lot more fluid in terms of what I do. So for me, I measure it by, am I happy? Am I excited by doing this, right? And I know that I love what I'm doing right now. So I could see myself doing it 10 years from now. Absolutely. So that's kind of that will be my barometer. Am I loving what I'm doing? Yes. Then let me continue doing it. But there's times when I've not liked what I've been doing. So I wouldn't necessarily wait 2 to 5 years. I would try to change it immediately. I'm not somebody that could do something that I don't enjoy for a long time. So I'd rather, if I don't feel happy, I would try to change it pretty quickly.
Great. And another question from the audience: how easy is it to rebrand if you change jobs or careers?
Yeah. How easy is it? It's a process. It definitely is a process. It could be as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. The thing is, we have to remember that most people are self-invested, right? Nobody is actually watching us, or because that's something that I was afraid of. I used to think, oh my gosh, people are looking at me. If I post online, people are looking at me. They're not. People are more concerned with what they're going to have for dinner tonight, right? So I think as long as you're clear in your own head, and even if you're not, see it as a fun experiment. It's okay to like try things out, try this job out, try that out, and it's okay to pivot. So I think as long as we have that learner mindset and the flexibility to be flexible to change, I think that's what you have to focus on, rather than necessarily what other people are going to think, or the judgment that, you know, people often fear that people are going to be judging them when they're changing careers. I think as long as you're comfortable with the uncertainty that comes with the flexibility of change, I think that's what you should be focused on instead.
Another great question just come through as well. How do you, as an upcoming filmmaker, remain consistent despite getting a lot of no's, a lot of rejections?
Yeah.
A really good question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And no just means next, right? No just means next. And I think oftentimes the rejection is a test as well. It's like the mindset that you could develop during this time is going to be crucial. So if you could see it just as a challenge, right? Okay, somebody has my yes. Somebody in this sea of people has my yes. Who has it, right? And see it as like a fun thing to do, but also take the time to reflect. And if you can get some feedback, that will be great as well. Is there something that you could improve upon? Do you need to maybe improve upon your storytelling, improve upon your delivery, improve upon how you're positioning yourself online? Think about those things as well. If you could get a close friend to maybe do an audit for you, to give you some honest feedback as well, I think that's going to be helpful. But definitely see it as a numbers game. You know, the more conversations that you can have, the more likely you are going to get to that yes. So while it is disheartening, you know, allow yourself to feel your feelings. You're obviously going to feel disappointed, but don't let that stop you. Let it fuel you to keep going until you get that yes.
That's great advice. I think we've got time for one more question, Marielle. Thank you so much. Our final question is, how do you retain your virtual presence if you're on holiday or need a digital screen break? Which is a really relevant.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was just on holiday. I was offline for 10 days. I think that's allowed. I think you're allowed to take time off. You can announce it and say, hey guys, I'm taking some time off. I will be back. You can absolutely do that. But I also think, you know, it's fine to take some time out. You know, I think it's important to take time out. So you never want to be in a position whereby you're feeling like you need to be constantly on all the time. If you do feel that, then, you know, you could perhaps schedule your posts. You could automate your posts if you want to do that. There's loads of good scheduling tools. I know things like Later and Buffer people do use. But for me, it's important to just take time out. So I allow myself that time to do that. And I don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah, good for you. Oh, well, thank you, Marielle, so much for your time today. It's been an absolutely fascinating session. And yeah, as I said, everybody, we will put as many of those resources and links as we can into the chat as well. So do check those out. Yeah. Thank you for being so generous with your advice and insights.
Oh, thank you so much, Charlotte. And I would say as well, like for those of you listening here right now, just think, what is just one thing that you could do to move yourself forward? I know that we've covered a lot, but if you could just commit to doing just one thing from this, you will be in a much better position. So take the action, you know, don't just listen. I want to encourage you to just do one thing, take one action.